Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, sitting down to talk about the Summer Games Fest 2022 showcase, the good, the bad, the horrific, and there's a lot to go through. There were a ton of games, and I wanted to just share my thoughts on each of them individually, and then also just talk about the showcase itself. It's the first time we've had a Keighley showcase since the Game Awards, and that one was quite frankly terrible just because of the pacing, the level infinite ads everywhere. So I wanted to talk about this one individually. First and foremost, there was a lot of explaining what was happening with games and just not letting them speak for themselves. I think the show would have been trimmed an easy 45 minutes if we didn't have a lot of developer interviews on stage. I don't mind those. I think when there's reason to expand upon them, sure. But for example, Call of Duty, as we'll talk about in a little bit, had like a good 7 to 8 minutes of gameplay. Great, it speaks for itself, but then they had more conversations on the stage and suddenly it's dominating the showcase for what is 15 minutes. And with trailers averaging, 3 to 5 minutes, I mean, you can eat up a lot of games with that. So I felt like that was something that definitely stuck out on this show. I noticed that the ads presence was pretty good here. There were moments that even in my stream chat, people thought that the ads occurring were actual announcements when they weren't. And to me, that was one of the better surprises because people thought that things that were being shown like Mario Strikers were actually games for the showcase, but they weren't. So I thought that was a good sign of where they're at. There was still the occasional level infinite ads, but nothing nearly as egregious and bag reaching, as I like to call it, as what we saw with the last Game Awards. So that was an improvement there. Otherwise, as you'll see with this list, a lot of space games, a lot of them. And I'm a sci-fi geek, so I'm about it. But this was a moment where I saw a lot of people groaning as like the 6th sci-fi game that was kind of like Dead Space rolled by. So now we're going to go through a whole list of everything we saw at the showcase, my thoughts on each of them, and the show in general. We started off with Street Fighter 6. I've never been a Street Fighter guy. I never really enjoyed the flow of those games, and I do play a decent amount of fighting games. I'm a fan of Dragon Ball FighterZ for a more recent example. I love Tekken. There's something about the rhythm and the flow of those games that really gels with me well. I think 99.9% of fighting games is all about feel, and to me, I just never felt like Street Fighter felt good, but I get why it's popular. Street Fighter 6 looks legitimate. I don't have much I can really add to it, though, because I'm not an expert on the series. Just it's one I'm open to trying, which previously I wasn't crazy about with Street Fighter 4, which I did try, and 5, which I never really gave too much of a fair shake to. Aliens Dark Descent. You want to talk about a trailer that's literally, dang, they had us in the first half. That was the reaction from the chat during stream. Everyone was hyped, like, oh, it's aliens, it's aliens. And then you see like it's a twin stick shooter. It's another horde mode game after Fireteam Elite just released last year. That was also available. It still is available on Game Pass, so you can check it out if you're interested. But a lot of people are really clamoring for like Alien Isolation 2 or a alien horror game. And we keep getting these horde modes, co-op games, and it seems like they're not really getting creative with the license. I hold a little bit of faith because I know Focus Home is involved in this and I love Focus Home, but I've never really been crazy about the Alien games. I'm making a lot of confessions in the early going here. I'm being hard exposed, but the Alien movies I've never seen. So maybe that would change my perspective on things, but I haven't even finished Isolation. Oh boy. Y'all are not going to be happy with me. But Dark Descent, I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed in the second half with what it was shown there. I wasn't in love with what I saw. To me, something like Fireteam Elite really jumped off the page at me. That was a fun game to play. I did enjoy it a lot, but this didn't. It looked like a lower tier version of that. Moving on, like I mentioned, MW2, heavy presence here. One thing I got to point out is every game sounded worse after MW2, and I mean literally like the sound quality. If you had your headphones on, MW2's sound design is impeccable. Like, to the little details when there's a wall between you and your fire team and someone's getting shot in the other room, the muffling of it, the explosions, just something about it. They have excellent sound design. It just was an incredible sounding game. And to me, that's what stood out the most. And I know that's a weird takeaway because they were talking about new water tech, which was a little laughable. The water was hitting the environment and moving it dynamically. That's cool. I just never heard anyone talk about it. New water tech. So we'll see how often water is used in MW2 if they developed all new technology for it. We'll see. But yeah, it was Call of Duty, right? It is kind of what we expected. MW1, when I played the beta way back when they were trying to market the game, I did not like the feel of this one at all. Really, I thought it felt way too sluggish, way too clunky, and I know that's an unpopular opinion. So I have to go back and play MW1 and at least play the story for it. But again, I did not like how weighty and how like in your face the gun was. It just felt so extreme. Like, it wasn't just walking around. It was like, boom, 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 boom. I don't know. There was something about, again, the feel. I'm a big feel guy, clearly, it seems, with Street Fighter and now MW, where those games did not gel with me. And especially, I think, Call of Duty, you know, it's one of the best feeling first-person shooters. This is when they upgraded the engine. And so a lot of people were very pleased with it. I was one of the few who's like, I'm okay. If anyone wants a more recent example of a Call of Duty game I thought felt good, it was Black Ops 4. That game, oh my God, I put like 200 hours into it. It felt so good. So much competitive play sunk into that. All right, now on to one of the games of the show, the Callisto Protocol. It's not one of my most popular videos on my channel, but I made a video called The Life and Death of Dead Space, and it was a real passion project, right? It was this almost 30-minute video kind of breaking down the development cycle of Dead Space, why it thrived and why it died. I'm very proud of it. And during that project, I was reminded of just how much I love this series and how easily Dead Space 2 is my favorite survival horror game of all time. One is such a classic that I'm very scared for the remake. I'm just hesitant to see how that all turns out because I think it's such a perfectly made game as well. I feel like the first two games are just amazing for the survival horror genre. If you have not played them, they're available in back compat. Do yourself a favor and go play them. But there's never been a game quite like Dead Space since. Like, we've got survival horror games, great ones at that, thanks to Resident Evil, but we haven't seen one that makes dismemberment like a key mechanic quite like Dead Space. One that interacts with physics, with the gravity, quite like Dead Space. One that messes with gore, quite like Dead Space. And that's everything the Callisto Protocol is, because the team who is heading up this game are the people who made Dead Space. Like, Glenn Schofield was the mastermind, among many others, behind Dead Space. They saw Resident Evil 4 and said, we want to go ahead and make the next Resident Evil 4. And that's where Dead Space 1 came from. They took everything from Resident Evil 4 and, in my opinion, evolved upon it. No disrespect to Resi 4, just to me, Dead Space 1 is a masterclass in game development. So to know that this team is working on this one, hyped to the high heavens. It's apparently coming out this year. Fingers crossed that date does hold. There were some frame drops in the gameplay. Never find that too encouraging because you have the ability to, as video editors, kind of try to trim it out. I respect the raw gameplay look. It's transparent. I'm all about that. I just hope that it comes out and it's good, right? Just like any game, but like this one in particular, I've been looking, like many of you out there, for the Dead Space spiritual successor, and what better hands to craft that than the ones who made Dead Space. It looks really true to the original vision. It looks a little more fluid, right? Like there was some melee combat. They brought back the loot stomp. Oh my God, amazing. Loved seeing that. So very hyped for Callisto Protocol. Now, this is the stretch of the show, and I'll let you all know where I feel things picked up, but this is the stretch of the show where some yawns kicked in, because while they were doing better ads compared to last year, they had like a really weird one with The Rock shirtless in the Iron Paradise and talking about Black Adam just ebbing and flowing between the Zoa drinks, Black Adam, just promoting like 15 different things at once in this one shirtless vlog that he was like in between sets, like doing bicep curls. And he's like, all right, it's The Rock here in the Iron Paradise. And, you know, it's just, I love The Rock, but it was just so out of place, so weird. So this is where the showcase started to get a little spotty. The games still look great, though. If you just cared about games, I think individually the titles look great. One of them that was shown off was Witchfire. It's a dark fantasy FPS. This is one of those moments where I feel like Call of Duty kind of hurt Witchfire, because you could just tell on FPS levels the difference in sound quality. Now, Witchfire comes from a much smaller team, so it's okay. It just kind of felt like the impact was softened in the combat. It had a little bit of Doom vibes, but I love dark fantasy, and I like when they mix time periods like of weaponry that's kind of more advanced with something that's set in the past, it seems. Really cool. So this game looked interesting. Fort Solis. Here we go. This is where people started to go, oh, another sci-fi game. Okay. So Fort Solis shows up. Again, this is where the pacing is hurt. Troy Baker, Roger Clark come on stage. Great to see Roger Clark, by the way. I'm shocked he hasn't got many more video game roles since his star role in Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, hello, Arthur Morgan. No one wants to hire this guy? crazy. So it's great to see him back in video games. But one thing that that I noticed was Troy likes to talk. And I respect Troy as a talent, but we'll talk about it later in the show. Troy likes to talk. So, yeah, they go on, they promote the game pretty hard. And this is where you start to feel like we're not really showing the games. We're just kind of talking about them extensively. So I'm curious to learn more about it. They're saying it's action heavy. It's more intense. They mentioned Dead Space as an inspiration for it. That's got me interested. So I am keen to learn more just for the showcase standards. Kind of hurt the pacing here. Routine. This is another game that looked pretty cool. And what's also interesting is this is an Xbox exclusive day one Game Pass. Kind of had Atomic Hearts vibes a little bit with the way that these strange robot figures are like kind of creeping around this decrepit location, this isolated location, seemed empty. Kind of had horror vibes. I thought the almost CRT TV you had as a scope was cool. Don't know much about the game. Keen to learn more. But this was one of the kind of surprises if you're an Xbox fan or player that you will be able to get your hands on Routine because it will be day one in Game Pass and it is an exclusive. So that was nice to see for Xbox fans. Stormgate, another example of talking. They go out on stage. Concept art, really? In-game stills, really? Like this is where Geoff, I don't know if he really organizes these things, but less is more, man. Like, less is more. If Stormgate's not ready to show and they only got images, which we'll talk about later, if we only got images, that's it, brother. They can't make the cut. Sorry. Say gameplay or trailer or nothing, but images, that's where I felt like the bar for the quality of this show was lowered. It's like, we got to at least have some type of motion on screen, right? We need a trailer of some kind. And when we're just showing images, which I know Stormgate got a trailer, by the way, but I'm saying afterwards, like, we didn't see any gameplay for that. I feel like the trailer completely mismarketed the game. I thought it was some Fortnite-style game, and they're like, it's an RTS. I went, I like RTS games. That sounds interesting. But that trailer was totally misleading. Highwater. This game was pretty neat. I think this is going to be a game a lot of people complain about, but I thought it was neat to see a game about the end of the world, and they have this song playing that's about if the world were to end while the sun was up. And it's a game about climate change. It's clearly going to be taking deep inspiration from today's day and age and the possibilities of that. And I'm very interested to see what they do with that. I think it's a unique premise in the sense of like every post-apocalyptic game I've played, hey, it's a Fallout fan. The world's been nuked. So it's kind of cool to see a game take post-apocalyptic in a different direction and try to connect it more with reality. We'll see how they handle the messaging. But overall, I thought this was a kind of interesting one for sure. Sticking with the slow stuff here, though, or I'm sorry, no, the next one is where I felt it was really slow. Maybe not everyone will agree, but this one was not slow. I thought this one looked great because as a fan of We Happy Few, I was excited to see American Arcadia. A lot of We Happy Few energy here. This kind of utopia, almost everyone's on a TV show, and then when someone tries to escape that society, you can see there's like a dome around it at the end. When you try to escape, like everyone's trying to stop you. I think that's a lot of We Happy Few vibes there. So I'm happy to see that because what I loved about We Happy Few was the atmosphere and the vibe of it, but because it was procedurally generated, I felt it was held back. This game does not look to be that. So keen to learn more about American Arcadia. That was one of the nicer surprises there. Concluding what I thought was the slow arc, the filler arc, if you will, for you anime fans out there, was Goat Simulator 3. They kind of did a parody of the Dead Island 2 trailer. Completely got me on that one. I was like, oh, they're going to show Dead Island 2, but then the animations and stuff are really weird and janky. And it's Goat Simulator 3. And maybe they're pulling a fast one on me. I don't know if there was ever a second one. But I never really was into these games. I was just like, okay. I'm sure someone out there, many people out there are probably excited and going like, yo, low key, not a bad game. Okay, I respect it, just not my cup of tea. So at this point, if you're watching my reactions, I definitely let out a couple of yawns. Not to be disrespectful, but just like, I really felt things were slowing down because in between these announcements are ads and it's really losing some steam. Then it gets picked up, in my opinion. Then we see Midnight Suns coming out this October. I was already excited for this one, but now you got my boy Spidey in one of the nicest suits I've seen Spidey don. My favorite superhero in a suit. Oh my God, dude, so nice. And Venom shows up, and Venom's under control. There's gameplay out for it now. It's a turn-based Firaxis RPG with a card-based system. No microtransactions, by the way. I was really keen on this one from the start. I like that they delayed it, focused on the quality. Game still looks great, in my opinion. You can check out the gameplay that's available now. A lot of people down on it because people just get skeevy with card games. I love card games, so to me, this looks awesome. Turn-based RPG with Marvel characters. Thank you. Kind of reminds me of Marvel Ultimate Alliance in a weird way. Like, wow, this shouldn't exist, but it does. I love that Midnight Suns is even a thing. As a big comic book fan, it's really cool to see. Continuing on with some good stuff. I've never played Cuphead, but Cuphead Delicious Last Course, the DLC, somehow it's still DLC. We haven't even got like a second game for it. This one looks excellent. I'm terrified of playing this game, and I say that as a diehard Mega Man X fan who's played a lot of those games and played the Mega Man Zero games, or at least 1 and 2, and gotten my butt kicked all over the place. That, yes, Cuphead terrifies me. I really want to play them, though, because they look so good. Neon White looks dope. I'm excited to know that's launching next week. Unfortunately, there might be a conflict of interest if you catch my drift and check out the shirt. That may be a bit of a problem. However, I like that it's a first-person shooter. Again, cards. There's a trend here. I like card games. But it's kind of got a flow to it. I like that it's again, this idea of like the sinners from hell have been taken to serve heaven. There's a cool story vibe here too. It's just very different. There's nothing quite like it. So Neon White looks great, coming out very soon. Definitely going to pick this up day one. Midnight Fight Express, another game coming exclusively to Xbox, day one Game Pass. I can't believe this is one person making this game. It's seriously impressive. Like the amount of assets they have, the clean animations, the mission variety that they've shown looks really, really good. It's coming out this August. Awesome. Awesome. Filling out the year for Xbox. That's what this showcase did. And that's a positive because a lot of the stuff we expected to maybe see at the Xbox showcase was shown here on a third-party level. So the first party is all set to go for the showcase, and that can be pretty exciting. And there's room for surprises there. But yeah, Midnight Fight Express continues to look amazing, coming out very soon. Okay, anime time. Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero coming from the Hoyoverse. Okay, so for those of you who were viewers of Ham Radio Live, you'll remember my co-host Paul Lombardo, big Genshin Impact guy. I messaged him, I'm like, is like Mihoyo doing this kind of Genshin universe thing? And pretty much what happened was due to some type of Chinese laws, they had to change the name, so they're known as Hoyoverse, but there's theories that all these games are going to be connected and that Honkai Star Rail is a spin-off of, like, I think Genshin Star Rail or something like that. There's so many games out there. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble keeping track of them. But there's a connection there. This is a spin-off of that. And then Zenless Zone Zero, we don't know much about. Now, the hope here, for me at least, is that one of these games is a traditional single-player, not gacha game. Because Genshin Impact is awesome looking, and I want to love it, and I do want to give it a second chance. I really do. I think it's developed enough where I should give it a second chance. But, like, gacha games just really, I don't know, man. They just kind of rub me the wrong way. I know Genshin you can get away with free-to-play, but I feel like I've heard a lot about the dice rolling and how that can be kind of frustrating in the daily grind. And I just don't have time for that. I have time for games, but not time for a daily grind for a game every single day. But I just hope that they make a single-player game. They certainly got the budget for it. Genshin Impact makes a lot of money. I'd love to see something from them, and maybe Zenless Zone Zero is that. But the combat in Genshin's awesome. So to see that carrying over to these other games is interesting. Okay. Moment of the showcase for sure right here. The shirt's on. I felt something in the air when I woke up this morning. I went, let me throw this on. So you may remember greatness occurred in the Xbox Bethesda showcase predictions, where your boy said day one Game Pass for a certain TMNT game. It just made sense to me, and it's happening. June 16th. It's happening. Shredder's Revenge is coming out with the original 4 Turtles. Casey Jones is in the game. We got April O'Neil, Master Splinter. Oh my God, 6-player co-op, online. This game is going to be a flick. I cannot wait to play Shredder's Revenge. One of my most anticipated games of the year. knowing I don't want to have to wait long feels so good because I was so excited. If they announced it, like, we're coming out in August, I'd be like, oh, man. They've done such a great job marketing it, building up the content. Now Game Pass, my hype is at a fever pitch right now. Cannot wait. So this was great. It also felt great to be right. Humankind was also announced for consoles. We already know Humankind was on PC Game Pass. It's now coming to consoles. This will also be available day one on Game Pass. One Piece Odyssey, more weebery. So I just started watching One Piece. I'm about 50 episodes deep now, and I'm loving this. This is feeling like some peak fiction in the making, and I'm only just finishing the Arlong arc. There's so much more for me to experience, and One Piece Odyssey was actually one of the driving reasons behind that. When I saw the game, I was like, oh, One Piece turn-based RPG? My girlfriend is a die-hard One Piece fan, so I was like, okay. You know, we have motivation on all ends here, right? Get closer with the lady, get closer with my games. This is a win-win. One Piece Odyssey looks like Dragon Quest, but One Piece looks so cool, man. Apparently coming out this year. Take your time. I got a lot of episodes of anime to watch. So, yeah, really pumped for this one. Looks great. Soul Hackers 2 coming out this August. New trailer for that. Continues to look great. SMT spinoff. Not much to say on this that hasn't been said. This is one of my Game Pass predictions. It's still not there yet, so we'll see if I am right or wrong. I just think this one will benefit from Game Pass and the exposure it would provide. We will see about that if they actually do it, but great to see an Atlas JRPG coming to Xbox. Great to see them trying a spin-off here with a sequel that's been like 20 years in the making. Next was a really cool one, Metal Hellsinger. This is a rhythm-based game with first-person shooting stuff. Nice. Like it. Cool vibe. Doom, but with music. We've seen games like this before. I've never been crazy about rhythm games, so unless it's Persona Dancing All Night. So I'll stay away from this one, but it does look good. Next was a game that I don't really care about, so I don't have much to say. Nightingale, a survival game. Kind of like the Industrial Revolution vibe of some of the character designs there with like the bowler hats. Cool, but otherwise, not really in love with what I saw with this one. Speaking of, Saints Row. You know, it's so funny looking at Saints Row now and thinking before that game was revealed, thinking, oh, man, I really hope they go back to their kind of gritty GTA vibe. That would be cool. They reboot the series. They're doing the same thing from day one, and we'll see. I want to lay my hands on it. I don't want to judge it too hard, but there's this Boss Factory demo out now. They show a lot of character creation. Doesn't look bad. It just looks like so goofy that I'm almost turned off. But we'll see, because I really did enjoy Saints Row 3 and 4. It just felt like it was time for a shakeup. And I do want to put my hands on it and see what that's all about. So time will tell if Saints Row does deliver. Another game coming day one to Game Pass, Xbox console exclusive. Another one that we did expect at the Xbox showcase. I didn't put this in my prediction show because I thought it was kind of obvious, but I was wrong, it seems. Warhammer 40k Darktide. Kind of this dark, or not dark fantasy, but steampunk sort of Vermintide game. It looks really good. It just had a lot of frame dips in the trailer. And again, it's kind of what I said with Callisto Protocol. You have an opportunity to edit these things, especially in a trailer like Warhammer, where it's like really jump cutty. You know, Callisto Protocol was raw gameplay, but this was jump cutty, and they still had frame dips. So fingers crossed they can clean that one up, but that's coming out in September, so their window is short. But this game does look great. Looks like more co-op fun, which is what Game Pass is all about. All right, so this one was a mixed bag from people. Bluebird Team shows up. Developers of the Medium, the Layers of Fear franchise. A lot of people see Bluebird Team and they're like, oh, Silent Hill, finally, it's happening. Nope. Silent Hill, not happening. Layers of Fear, Unreal Engine 5. You know, my thing with Bluebird Team that I can never get behind them with is their reluctance to put gameplay in their games. So we'll see if this one has it. For a Unreal Engine 5 game, I know this may sound like a weird take, but it didn't look that crispy, that pretty, which was very surprising. I watched the gameplay trailer over again. I was like, this doesn't look bad, of course, but like with everything else I've seen with Unreal Engine 5, this kind of looks a little underwhelming. Then again, not a big believer in Bluebird Team, but as you can tell, a lot of horror in this trailer, which was cool, or I'm sorry, in this showcase. It was very nice to see that genre well represented, and I think you can thank Resident Evil's resurgence for that. Gotham Knights, they were wise this time to put a full trailer together instead of letting the raw gameplay speak for itself, because when it did, a lot of people were displeased. I'm kind of in the middle on this one. Again, this is one of my Game Pass picks. We'll see if it ends up becoming true. They have yet to delay it, which some people want. I thought the game looked pretty solid. Did it look as rock solid as like a rock steady game, pardon the pun? No, definitely not. But I really love the story, the premise, the idea of Arkham style open world with co-op, and being able to play as everybody except Batman. I think the biggest disappointment to me is that Red Hood kind of looks like he plays like trash. Otherwise, though, like this game looks like it was more fit for probably everyone else in the game, like Batwoman, like Robin, like Nightwing. Nightwing looked awesome in this, and they showed off a bunch of skins for Nightwing from different renditions of him in the comics and whatnot. You know, I like what I'm seeing with it. I do. I just don't know if I can sit here with conviction and say this will be good. We'll have to see on that one. It's really coming down to the combat and the flow of it, and that type of stuff is baked in, which is why they may not delay it, because I don't know how much they could clean that up. Last game of the show got leaked. Let's talk about it now. The Last of Us. So this was another moment where they really spent a lot of time on stage. Way, way too long. Thought they had at least one more, but once Keighley turned the screen and said, that's it. I was like, you guys talked for like 15 minutes after. You didn't have one more to show. I guess that's what happens when your show ender leaks. So they said Factions is as big as any single player game they've made, and they're waiting until next year to show more off for that. So that project is really, really developed, because I think was that supposed to come out the same year as Last of Us Part 2? I'm not sure, but I know it was not supposed to be this long, but it's turned into a full game. That is exciting. I thought the multiplayer for The Last of Us 1 was really good, surprisingly good at that. So I'm totally trusting Naughty Dog on this one. I was not in love with The Last of Us Part 2 really at all. I thought it was kind of stagnant compared to what Last of Us 1 did, which is, to me, a masterful video game. It's a masterpiece, well and truly, and one of PlayStation's best video games ever. So to me, I was not in love as much with the second one. So that brings us to the next announcement that was leaked. The Last of Us Part 1 announced, which is a remake of Part 1. This is one that's weird, man. I'm a huge fan of The Last of Us 1. I really am. I love that game. I've played it at least 5 times. I just, for me, it's like, I maybe we'll learn more when we actually see the game. I just don't know why it currently exists. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know why this one exists. And I don't say that disrespectfully. It just feels like when you look at the era of remakes we're in right now, with like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Resident Evil 2 Remake, these games are changing and trying to improve based off the original. And I'm not saying go and improve the first one, because as I mentioned before, it's a masterpiece. Like it had a remastered version. I didn't think this really needed to exist. And they showed side-by-side screenshots again. They showed concept art of Factions. They showed a screenshot of the Last of Us show. Just like really kind of weird kind of a vibe for this show at times, man. I don't know what it was with the screenshots. I guess Geoff was taking what he could. But yeah, with The Last of Us Part 1, this was I just can't really fully get behind it. If it's just going to be the same game but prettied up for $70 PlayStation, we'll see. We'll see. But this kind of goes into that bin of my problem with their director's cuts and what they're doing with those games. It just seems a little sleazy. We'll see, though, what the full game looks like. Again, I love The Last of Us 1, so for anyone who's about to call me an Xbot and run it in my face, you just hate that PlayStation's got good games. Look, I love this game with all my heart. I'll probably end up picking it up, and maybe that's the goal, right? But it just feels like 9 years it's only been. The game still looks fantastic on PS3, let alone, of course, PS4 with the remaster. It just doesn't seem necessary, especially with Factions coming relatively soon if it's next year. But we'll see. We'll see. If the trend continues, we'll see Factions in June like Last of Us 1 and 2 had released. But that's the entire showcase for Summer Games Fest. It was solid. It was definitely not that bad. A lot of ups and downs in the middle, but for the most part, the games looked great. I enjoyed myself during it. The chat was awesome, of course. Thank you all for that. And it wasn't nearly as bad as what I thought the Game Awards was, which was terrible. So with that, those are my thoughts on the showcase of the games that were there. Thank you so much for tuning in. What was your favorite game you saw? For me, it was probably Callisto Protocol or, of course, TMNT Shredder's Revenge. I've seen that before, so in the terms of new debuts, Callisto Protocol was beautiful. Chef's kiss. So was Midnight Suns. A lot of stuff we already knew about. That was to be expected. So with that, what do you think? What did you like? Let me know. Or what did you dislike? Fire away. Other than that, I'll catch you all in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.